Allow me to share a personal anecdote. Last Saturday at about 7 a.m., I met up with two of my friends to train calisthenics in the one and only Chishmiju Garden. This isn't like exercise clothes, so I'll just... Okay, that's like 2% better. After about 2 hours of doing pull-ups, dips, skin the cat, whatever the hell this is, we decided to go on a run, which, of course, left sweat on the goddamn pavement because our asses were completely exhausted after it. After 5 kilometers, we caved in, and I say to my friends, hey, why don't we go to play some basketball? Why don't we go play some basketball and also buy some pretzels, some bagels on the way? Now, one of my friends says, hey, eating a pretzel on like a raw stomach, empty stomach, is not exactly the healthiest thing on earth. And I'm like, hey, I know for a fact you were just talking about how you were eating pizza last night and your muscular ass is going to get a caramel frappuccino after this anyway. Let's just go get some pretzels. I don't know if pretzels is even the right word. Kovrij for the Romanian, and I'll pop a photo on the screen. So we leave the Chishmiju Garden, we drink from the local fountain, and we go to the basketball terrain, to the local basketball terrain. It's not local, it's like central Bucharest. The park that has a basketball terrain, but not before buying some Kovrij. So we get in line. One of my friends is in front of me, one of my friends is behind me, so I'm like in the middle of the pack here, and I go to pay for my 2 Kovrij, 2 pretzels, 2 I don't know what they're called. And the worst possible thing that could have happened happens. No, a dinosaur didn't eat me whole. My card declined. Now, I don't know how cashiers from your country or city react when the client's card declines, but in Bucharest, especially on a Saturday, it's not an experience that you want to go through. And in the words of scholar living ironically in Europe, even people that live in Bucharest hate that they are in Bucharest. So you can imagine the embarrassment, just general humiliation and berailment I was going to be subjected to. And I ultimately was subjected to it. And it upset me so much that even more than a week later, I'm recording this on a Wednesday. It happened last Saturday. I'm recording a hissy fit for YouTube. But why did it hurt me so much? And most importantly, what can we learn from experiences like this? Well, in my opinion, the main motive for my suffering was not necessarily the humiliation and embarrassment themselves, even though those on themselves can suck, like really, really suck, but it was probably the clash between my perceived identity, what I thought I was, because believe it or not, I was the one that said, hey, I'll invite all of you to Kovrij. I'll buy pretzels for all of you. And at the end of the day, my card was the only one that declined and didn't work for that machine. So in my mind, I was going to be this virtuous hero that would buy Kovrij for everybody I worked out with, everybody I ran with. But the guy that was, my friend that was behind me and in line, ultimately ended up paying for me, which I'm eternally grateful for, but also kind of makes me feel embarrassed because I was thinking of myself as hot shit because I was going to invite these guys to Kovrij. Guess what? After finishing the Kovrij and having played basketball and every single one of us going back home before that, I told my friend a very weird compliment. The friend that kind of was hesitant to buy himself Kovrij. I said to him, hey, you know what? You have the shadow of an athlete. And he said, yeah, that is a really weird compliment. But you have the shadow of a businessman. Can you notice the interesting thing about that? I started the day by thinking of myself as the person who most likely, I don't know, had the most money in their card, was going to be the one that would, I don't know, pizzazz himself into the situation of having invited everybody out to Kovrij. Then got immediately destroyed. It got that belief my identity completely destroyed by the feisty cashier. And then immediately afterwards, not immediately, but like 2 hours afterwards, I was told my shadow at least, looked like a businessman. A businessman being someone who doesn't take shit for an answer and ultimately doesn't get embarrassed and humiliated on a daily basis. I don't get humiliated on a daily basis, but you know what I mean. And I could probably give 500 more examples of things like this happening in my life. There have been times my Spanish teacher calls me absolutely fantastic, and things that I'm like a god of the humanities, that I'm really good at, like Romanian and psychology and philosophy. I don't do psychology and philosophy at school yet, or whatever. I'm really good at geography, history, and whatever. And 5 minutes later, I'm not joking, my test results come back and it's like a 6. It's absolutely insane how inconsistent your identity is. It's absolutely insane how insane things like this are. You can believe something about yourself, and then the next second somebody disproves it, and then the next second somebody proves it again. Why is that? Well, you see, everybody you meet, everybody you have interacted with, everybody that you have affected, or everybody that maybe has affected you, or maybe in general, everybody that is kind of aware of your existence has a different impression of who you are. Sometimes those people, especially if they're like complimenting you or insulting you, or it also depends on their mindset really, or whether or not they're in a position of leadership and authority, they will share those impressions they have of you with you. What's the problem? That not everybody is going to have the same impression of you as you have of yourself, or as your mother has. Your mother and your father are going to have different perceptions of who you are. It's just a common truth. Currently, I'm being kind of praised for my eloquency in speech. Oh, you speak so well. You know how to improvise speeches so well. You know how to write things so well. I'm convinced that sooner or later, maybe when I step into a debate club at high school, maybe the very second I step into my new high school, maybe I will have that perception of myself completely destroyed and turned into a puddle of sadness. Why? Because everybody is going to have different first impressions, second impressions, third impressions about you. Somebody can tell you, oh, you're so honest, and another person can tell you, hey, you're not honest. So how do you decide who the hell you are when everybody thinks something different about you, and most of the time what you think about yourself is just the average of what other people have told you you are? Well, as most problems in self-improvement and philosophy in general, it's kind of easy to understand what they're getting at, but it's extremely hard to actually implement them into your life. For example, Mark Manson, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, talks about how the most primitive example of self-improvement is losing weight. Telling somebody, hey, eat less, work out more is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to understand if you want to lose weight, that's what you have to do. Actually doing that as a fatty is going to be a lot harder than actually understanding it. And that's the reason why most people stay fat and don't actually go through with it. So my advice, my literal advice that is pretty simple to understand is, hey, build a perception of yourself that is completely objective. Like, I would like to think of myself, hey, I'm extremely honest. I will have a financial future. I do know how to make money, even though I don't make money yet, but I will be able to be a successful businessman. I don't know what. I'm extremely eloquent when I speak. I'm really good at English, French, Spanish, Romanian, stuff like that. And every single time somebody disproves that and literally, leads me back to my, to the start, to the origins of my stream of consciousness, and actually explains how my core beliefs are wrong and stuff like that, I will take that in as a little bit of an input, or I don't know, a feedback cycle. The cycle of feedback loop. You still need to think of yourself as honest, as courageous, as eloquent when you speak, as bilingual, whatever you are, whatever you want to be. and taken every single confirmation of that belief as what it is, but also kind of take every single thing that disproves it into account. Because if you don't, you will probably end up in a situation that in which you're just completely delusional. You won't end up in a good situation if you just ignore everything that makes you flawed. You need to take in, like, oh my god, my car declined. I'm actually goddamn poor. I didn't have a single dollar to pay for my coverage. What am I gonna do now? Well, yeah, maybe you should be, and that wasn't even like a financial thing, honestly. It was a thing of, hey, how well do you actually know how to use a card, bro? Like, do you actually know how to put it into a device and put like the pin and stuff like that? Maybe not. Maybe you should learn. Maybe you should like actually stop sleepwalking to your everyday life. I think that rant was a bit too long. Yeah, ultimately, believe what you think about yourself. Take in every single thing that proves that, but also every single thing that disproves that. And eventually you'll become closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the thing that you actually want to be. If I say, hey, I'm so eloquent, and receive a comment from, I don't know, my physics teacher that, hey, and my physics teacher says to my class, hey, you should all be more like Elias. He's so eloquent. You all need to be as eloquent as him. I'll take that at face value. That I still need to prioritize eloquence as one of my main talents. But I don't know. If I go to a debate club and like a debate team champion tells me, hey, you have no idea how to prove your point. You have no idea how to improvise a well-structured argument for what your belief system is. I'll take it at face value, because ultimately every single thing that makes you feel bad and every single thing that makes you feel worthless and maybe a little bit less than what you would want to be is ultimately an example and an example of what you could be doing better, and a call to action for you to actually enact the things that will make you better. So yeah, that was my like monthly unscripted rant for you, and I'll see you later and stronger than ever. Holy shit.